Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Roundtree. My patients call me Dr. Bob. I've been in practice for over 33 years now, and it's really been quite a journey over that time. And for a big chunk of that time, I've been very interested in what it is that makes people chronically ill. And I'm talking about going beyond what you normally see in the textbooks, the typical causes of illness, and more focusing on things like chronic toxicity and metabolic disorders, poor eating habits, etc. So I'm often asked, what is it about a cleanse that's so special? Why would you recommend a cleanse to people? I think what a cleanse does is it jump starts a person's metabolism. It can be very difficult to make some minor changes in one's diet and expect to see anything big come out of that. On the other hand, if you do a jump start, if you rest the intestines for a while, if you go on a powdered protein, for example, and you're decreasing the overall daily intake, then it gives your system a chance to readjust and to start moving into a new direction. So I absolutely see that when people go on a good cleanse that they can lose weight from that. And I think there's a number of different reasons for that. Mostly people think that the idea behind weight loss is that they simply need to exercise more and they eat less. But I see a lot of patients that do that. You know, they go to the gym every week, they're working out, and they're just not getting the results that they'd like to see. They've cut back to 1,000 calories a day, 800 calories a day. They're hungry all the time, right? But they're not losing weight. Well, part of the problem that I think is going on here is this old saying that the solution to pollution is dilution. What that means is that if we are polluted with toxic chemicals, and we all are to some extent, then our body will try to dilute those toxic chemicals by putting on more water and more fat. And until you do something to lower the load of those toxic chemicals, then your body's going to continue to retain that fat. So as soon as you start to remove those toxins, as soon as you accelerate the systems that are built into our body and our intestinal wall and our liver that can accelerate the removal of those toxins, the eliminate of those toxins, and until you've started eliminating those toxins, you're stuck with them, and that's going to continue to keep the weight on. And that's why people don't have success with just your typical Weight Watchers type programs. So a lot of people, when they hear about this kind of program that Pure Trainer is offering, they say to themselves, I don't know if I can do this. You know, this sounds really overwhelming to me. Oh my God, I have to make some major dietary changes, maybe. I have to do some restriction, you know, I'm going to have to eat some powders or I'm going to have to take some supplements. Can I do this? And what I often say to those people, first of all, is I've seen, after 30 plus years of doing this, I've seen many people who thought that they didn't have it in themselves to make these changes. And yet when they actually dove into it one step at a time, then they found, oh, I just do a little bit here. You know, I add on these supplements, I add on a shake, I do a very specific kind of exercise program that is laid out in detail, and that's really important to know exactly what to do and when to do it. Then people find this isn't really any different than other things I've already been successful with. Well, one advantage of joining a program like this that's already proven, that already has a very good track record, is that you get lots and lots of support. You get very specific directions about where to go and what to do. And I think that can be very helpful. And I can say that in my own clinical practice, I've made the mistake with patients of simply saying, here, you need to eat fewer toxic foods. You know, eat things that are not wrapped in plastics, don't use microwaves, don't use synthetic materials, etc., and then go out and do it. I've found over the years that without giving people very specific directions and a very specific set of steps that they can follow, that will fail almost 100% of the time. So the difference here with this program is that if you join us, you will get the direction that you need. Why should you do it now? I mean, why not any other time in your life? Well, it doesn't get any better than now. There is no better time than now. You can put this off and think about it for years and say, well, you know, maybe when I get a little bit older, or if I get a little bit sicker. Well, you know, I can tell you, I've heard that in the past. I'm not sick enough. You know, I'll tell you a story. A woman called me and said, my husband has Parkinson's disease. and I'm trying to get him on a cleansing program to lower some of the toxins, because we know that toxins cause Parkinson's disease. And I talked to my husband, and he said, well, I'm not ready for this now because I'm not sick enough. And I thought, you don't understand. By the time you develop these symptoms, your system is already way out of whack. So what about the rest of us that simply don't feel optimal? We're tired, we're run down, we're feeling a little bit overweight. There is no better time than now to address that. One thing that's really surprised me over the years, over 3 decades of working with patients, is there really is no problem that is so complicated that people can't find a way to begin to unravel it. I don't want to knock specialists, but I've had people go to specialists who are told, you've got this disease, you have an autoimmune disorder, and you're stuck with it. It's like they have a jersey that they've put on, and the jersey for that team is welded to their skin the rest of their lives. That's their identity. That's who they are. You know, I'm a person with rheumatoid arthritis. Well, I tell people that's not true. That's not true. There is nothing that can't be unraveled if you don't start looking at the simple issues that we all have underneath that cause disruptions in metabolism, that cause our immune system to go out of whack. This is all called functional medicine, and it's not really that difficult to work through. So I would say the thing that surprised me the most over the years is that we really can solve a lot of the chronic problems that people deal with in health. I know a lot of people that want to start on a program like this feel kind of nervous. They're doubtful about whether they have the ability to address it. And the one thing that I can really say as a way to inspire people who are in that state of mind is to say, you know, the important thing is to think about your goal, to think about what it is that you really want, instead of thinking about how you feel, your fear, your anxiety about it. It's like looking at a moat around a castle and saying, look at that. There's no way I can ever get into that castle because there's such a huge moat around it. How could I ever get past that? It makes me nervous. It makes me anxious. But if you think about what's in that castle, why do you want to be in the castle in the first place? You know, why do you want optimal health? Because probably you've heard other people talk about it. You've heard other people say, gee, I lost weight. I feel great. I'm energized. I know that that inspires me when I hear people say that sort of thing. And I think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So the castle that I'm looking towards is this castle of friends, you know, colleagues, family, etc., that have been successful at this kind of program, that tell me what it's like on the other side of the moat. And that's what draws me. So if you let that goal pull you and you minimize the focus on all those feelings of fear and anxiety, then I think you'll find that you get pulled towards what it is that you want, that you can succeed in. So I think one thing that surprises most people when they start going after this is that it's really not about willpower. Willpower will only take you so far. This whole notion of like, I can do it and I can push through, you know, when I get that kind of finger wagging at me, it almost makes me resistant. I don't want to do it. Yeah. I don't want to do it. Again, if I'm pulled towards the goal, if I say, gee, this is something I just want and I'm interested in it and I get immersed in it and I let it pull me, that's very different than having to use discipline. I'm doing it because I genuinely want to do it. I genuinely want to make it happen. And that's very different than saying, you have got to go to the gym and you've got to go 7 days a week and you've got to work out for an hour and a half, you know, and if you don't, you have failed. And if you fail, you're a bad person. Well, that never works. It's very important to start from a place of being empowered and saying, okay, I may make mistakes from time to time, and that's okay. This is not about perfection. It's not about being the perfect person. It's about being the person you want to be. I think one thing that's really important to understand about this program is that it's only one chunk. It's 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 14 days. Anybody can do anything for 14 days. I've been able to do these kind of programs for 14 days. And I never thought that I could have done it. But 14 days is nothing. We can easily get through that. So it's a very small chunk. It's very achievable. The important thing to realize is that you don't have to do the program 100%. You're going to get more benefit the more you do it. But if you do even 50% of the program, you're still going to see an overall lowering of your total toxic load, an improvement in energy, and you're going to be able to shed pounds clearly in a much more efficient way than you were if you had not been following this program. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this short video. And what I want to tell you is that I have seen many, many people who are in the same boat that you are, who have been a little bit worried and a little bit frustrated about whether they can take the next step towards optimal health. And I have seen people overcome that obstacle and make the moves that they need to make to achieve the kind of goals that we're talking about. So we'd really love for you to join us in this venture.